Hello everyone, it's a funding frenzy in the startup world today. I'm Priya Sheth and you're tuned in to the Daily Dispatch. Now, the companies that are in news today include Vedantu, Cred Avenue, as well as Misho. Well, headline number one, EdTech startup Vedantu has raced to the unicorn club with its peers. The startup has raised about $100 million in its latest funding round at a valuation of about $1 billion. It currently gets about 35 million monthly visitors on its platform, of which about 500,000 will be paying for Vedantu by the end of this year. Well, headline number two, debt platform Cred Avenue is also flush with funds. The company closed its Series A funding round at $90 million. This round was led by Sequoia Capital and co-led by Lightspeed, TVS Capital Funds, Lightrock, among others. This is one of the largest Series A funding rounds, bringing the fintech startup's valuation to $410 million. Well, headline number three, social commerce platform Misho has raised $570 million in its Series F financing round. This round was led by Fidelity Management and B Capital. This doubles its valuation to about $4.9 billion in a span of 5 months. Now, Misho is looking to reach about 100 million monthly transactions, and this funding will be deployed into growing technology as well as product talent. Well, moving on to our second segment, I have with me a very interesting power packed panel of experts from the beauty space because the space is really hot over the last couple of months, and especially after the onset of the pandemic, we've seen so many new brands really emerge. And to talk about that and the market potential going forward, I have with me Darpan Sanghvi from MyGlam as well as Shankar Prasad from Pure Property Sciences. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today. I want to begin with you, Shankar, to talk to you a little bit about how the last couple of months have been because we've seen this sudden boom in the whole space. So tell us a little bit about how the last few months have been.
Sure. So, from a Plum perspective is where I'll be sort of talking to you about. It's the same and it has changed both. I'll tell you what stayed the same and what has changed. What stayed the same, thankfully, is that the secular growth path that the industry is on, that continues. So the the industry itself is growing in all dimensions possible. So whether it is the number of consumers entering the space, the number of products they are consuming, the number of categories they are consuming, and so the growth along every dimension has just continued. The one big change that has happened is that we've seen a bounce back in retail after the unfortunate, quarter one of the financial year, where in April and May were very, very tough for people in general and for retail in particular. That bounce back has happened. Online continues to grow, and I think the upcoming quarter, which is starting in a few days, is expected to be really big for online. But retail has really stepped up the gas in the last couple of months. That's what I would think has changed in the last couple of months.
Right, I want to come to you, Darpan. We've been through 2 lockdowns, and now there is an expectation that the third wave may come in. But as a player who's been in the online space, what kind of learnings do you have over the last couple of months, specifically considering the kind of pace at which the industry is growing? If you could highlight those, please.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll break your question in a couple of parts. I think one part you're referring to is specifically for the pandemic, right? And how does that impact you? So look, undoubtedly, every time there is a wave, it impacts sales. Why? Because there is a consumer sentiment as well, which gets impacted. We clearly see that. We see, despite, for our DTC online sales, when we had the second wave earlier this year, we saw conversion rates drop. We saw cost per impression go up, right? Consumers are not in that frame of mind because they're dealing with so much stuff around them, right? And so does a COVID wave impact sales? Absolutely, yes, right? Including online, because consumer sentiment is affected, right? Is that temporary? 2000% yes. We saw the bounce back from when as soon as things start improving for people in their daily lives, they are looking to sort of looking for the little gratification, the little bit of happiness, right? And they're getting back to their daily lives. Building on what Shankar said, even offline, the bounce back is incredible, right? How quickly, whether it was last year when the lockdown opened up, June, July onwards, last season was significantly 2020 October, November, December was significantly better than 2019 October, November, December, right? Offline, I'm talking retail, right? And we've seen the same now, which is July onwards. Once things improved in the second wave in 2021, offline really took off as well. So learnings we have is that when a wave hits, it is having a massive impact on all our lives. I think discretionary spends like ours for that temporary period is not on the top of mind for people, right? Till the time things get back in better in their daily lives. So I think that's one learning for us. But the other learning is the bounce back is incredibly quick. Now, the other question that you had on the growth, right? And this amazing wave of growth that we are seeing in DTC. It's not a 2-month phenomena. It's not a 6-month phenomena. It's not a 12-month phenomena. It's been 5 years in the making, right? There is a lot of excitement now from investors because everything has come together and it's exploding. And then, of course, that gets amplified with everyone reporting about it as well. And so suddenly it seems, oh my God, things have in the last 3 months, what has happened over here, right? It's been 5 years in the making. Macro conditions, category conditions, great new entrants like all of us, right? Who are coming in and disrupting the way things are done, giving consumers quick lead times, new products, very high on latest trends, right? And all of that is contributing to the growth as well. So I would treat the two separate, which is the pandemic, right? And just the overall growth of the business. I don't think the pandemic has fueled the excitement and the growth that you're seeing today in beauty. I think that has been coming. It's just that the timing has happened now with everything coming together.
Right. That's an interesting perspective, Shankar. I want to come to you to ask you whether or not this is an inflection point for you at Plum, considering that we've been seeing the kind of momentum over the last couple of months. And as Darpan very interestingly pointed out, that it's been the industry that has really seen a surge over the last 5 years. So what would you consider this period as for you at Plum?
See, I think one thing is for sure, and that's true across categories, not just beauty, that COVID has really accelerated the online side of things. Part of the thing is a temporary blip, wherein because people are forced to shop online, the purchase moves online. But there's also a permanent, I would say, change that we are seeing happen, which is the consumption of content online. So which is sort of fueling or seeding some of the ultimate conversion-led growth that Darpan was referring to. The consumption of content online has really gone up over the last 1.5 years, I guess, maybe because people are just cooped up and have the device in front of them and good internet, thankfully. So they are able to consume a lot more content. And beauty is one of the largest beneficiaries of this content explosion that we've seen. As a result of it, there is increased curiosity, there is increased awareness, there's the whole funnel starts performing better and differently. That's, I think, one inflection point that we definitely seem to have crossed. Having said that, I think I'll second what Darpan said, that the beauty industry is growing in spite of the pandemic, and not one of the reasons being the pandemic, right? So it does put at least a comma or a semicolon on the plans of people. Supply chain goes for a toss, retail goes for a toss. So there's a lot of just scrambling that one has to do when some such thing happens. I hope it doesn't happen again, honestly. But when some such thing happens, you have to scramble. But the path is clearly, looking good in front of us. And I totally agree with Darpan here that it has been many years in the making. All the contributory factors, fast internet, great devices, being just a couple of them, have fueled this wave that we are seeing.
When you talk about the whole M&A space and the kind of acquisitions that are happening in the industry, we're seeing so many small acquisitions, tuck-in acquisitions happening, big acquisitions as well happening in the beauty and cosmetics space. That one, you've done one big acquisition, with Baby Chota. So tell us a little bit about how important will the strategy of inorganic growth be for you at MyGlam?
So, the way we would view, we started acquisitions last year. people are talking about acquisitions this year. Our game changer was our acquisition of Popexo and Plixo in the middle of the pandemic last year, right? We were lucky that worked out for us, and that really sort of was a foray into content to commerce. The way we view Baby Chakra or any other opportunistic opportunity that might come our way is, what is the synergy? That's it. I think for us, it has to be, hey, how is it accelerating our journey to that greater goal that we have? Whether it's on the content side, whether it's on the beauty side, right? Mom and Baby was a vertical we wanted to get into. We realized MyGlam has no right to win in Mom and Baby. That brand has heritage, comes from cosmetics, right? And Baby Chakra was is a very trusted platform for women, and it also exemplifies the same content to commerce. That's exactly what Naiya built out, right? And so it just felt right to do it. So I'd say that the way to view, at least for us, acquisitions is, hey, you've got your greater goal in mind, right? Is there anything that you can do which accelerates your journey to that greater goal? Luckily, this is not, we're not in a category which is a winner take all category, and there is a land grab happening, and there's going to be, it's not like that. These are brands we're all building, right? And brands is consumer personas, and consumer personas are so many, right? And the brands have different consumer needs. So the way we view acquisitions is, what is the synergy and how would it accelerate our journey to the end goal that we have?
Right. Shankar, I want to talk to you specifically about categories. We've seen a huge transition in the kind of categories that have been seeing growth over the last couple of months. Categories that used to be mainstay categories are not mainstay categories anymore. So what kind of transition are you seeing at Plum? What categories do you think are the categories of the future in the beauty and cosmetic space?
Right. So for us, skincare is a forte, and skincare is still, I would say, in its nascency. I would think that the true skincare journey in the Indian market is coincidentally about as old as us, which is about 7 or 8 years, or at the maximum a decade, because before that it was largely cream or moisturizer and face wash. It's really in the last decade or so, or maybe even in the last 5 to 6 years or so, that people have started adopting categories like serums, toners, sunscreens, face scrubs and masks and peel-offs and whatnot. So the sheer deepening and widening of product portfolio in this category has been very heartening to see. And with the general trend towards more specific and more specialist products rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. So that movement, that trend will continue, and therefore the category will continue to grow as more and more people start adapting these, the products. The other big category, which is in the general beauty and personal care space, hair care is actually larger than skincare, but it's largely driven by hair oil and then shampoo. There again, we are going to see it may take slightly longer to play out, I don't know, but we are likely to see a specialization happening. We are already seeing that in the professional segment a bit, in the premium segment quite a bit, but it's not sort of deepened into the mass and mass premium segments yet. Color cosmetics is evergreen. That journey, even from my previous experience prior to Plum, is about 10 to 12 years old. And again, if you see where we are on that curve of usage, still a fraction of even Southeast Asia or other parts of Asia. So again, very, very high headroom for growth in color cosmetics. And lastly, I would call out personal care in general. Again, it's not as if people don't use soap. I mean, I'm sure the category penetration is more than 99.5%. But there again, premiumization, people seeking variety, people seeing variety across categories, body scrubs and body oils and body mists, fragrances. So epilation. So there is a lot of stuff that is yet to unfold in body care. So I think it's tough to call out specific categories as slow or fast. There are enough niches, enough premiumization, enough headroom for growth across all the categories. So that's actually I keep telling this to my team all the time, that you got to be lucky to be working in this country in this time when we are seeing all these forces being unleashed and the demand being so strong, people struggle to create demand. Here, the demand is there, largely there, and I just hope that it continues this way. I mean, all the sort of signs are in the right direction. With demand being that strong, it's really about making sure you execute well on brand, product, and channel to capture the demand.
Right, I'm going to very quickly ask both of you a question on investments, and Darpan said that there is huge interest from investors as well. So Darpan, how much are you raising then? What's the kind of plan out there in terms of fundraise, and also want to understand down the line what kind of expansion in capacity both of you are looking at in your respective companies?
Sure. One thing I've learned this year, Priya, is don't put a number. Because, when we started our Series C in March, right, I thought I was done. Because, we had broken even as a company. We had enough money. I think the start of the Series C was 175 crores. And we said, look, we have enough capital. This is more than enough for us to do what we need to do. And then the Accel top-up happened, which was another 355 crores. In March, would I have thought of that? Absolutely not. Right? In March, my answer would have been, I'm done. Right. Then in June, when the Accel round happened, June, July, again, my thing was it's done. Right. But you just don't know. So all I'd say, Priya, is that we are in a very fortunate time, to add on what Shankar said, right, that, hey, you've got, you just have to work, demand is there, which is very rare, right, that you just now, and it's underserved. That's the beauty, right? In addition to that, access to capital is there as well right now. That's the environment we are in currently, right? So the answer to your question is, I think depending upon how we grow, what we want to do, what our objectives are, we would raise. It's impossible for me to give you a number and say I'm done, not done, will continue to do, because it is just so incredibly, this environment is just so dynamic right now, and it's so fluid. Your goalposts are so fluid right now because you're growing so quickly, that varies. So the answer to your question is, even I don't know.
So which basically means that we can expect Darpan to raise some funds. I think he's not telling us, but he has a lot of those activities in the pipeline. Shankar, what about you? Are you looking at some funding, and what kind of plans do you have in terms of capacity expansion?
Again, nothing too specific that I can share at this stage. But suffice it to say that, I look at it as, capital being an enabler to fulfilling the potential that the market offers, and fulfilling the potential that the brands that we have in this market that we are in. And therefore, again, one must consider oneself fortunate. And I've seen times when capital was scarce, way back, and when I started my career, capital used to be really, really scarce, to now where capital is plenty. And the only thing is, you have to, I think the philosophy that I at least follow is right source of capital at the right time, of the right quantum for the right purpose. Easier said than done. There is always imperfections in this perfect combination that I mentioned. But I think for the opportunity that is in front of us, for the trajectory that we are envisioning, definitely more capital will be needed. How, when, how much, it's still not finalized from our end.
So thank you very much for joining us today for this lovely, insightful discussion. I think we have some very interesting insights from this panel, and lots of takeaways too. Thank you so much for being a part of the Daily Dispatch.
Well, time now to say goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Goodbye and stay safe.